Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the AAPI Go Cast. This is our inaugural video podcast, so if you haven't seen us before, welcome. This is what we look like. I promise there are more Asians here than it is readily apparent, but we'll be joining Eugene later, and we have Malcolm on the line, sans video camera. So, yeah, we'll just wanted to let you all know we have a special guest this week, Citizen Hush. So, say hi.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
All right, cool. And then we have Bobby, of course.
Hello, how's everyone?
And every week, as always, Raphael.
Hello, everybody.
And Malcolm, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hey, what's up, everyone?
All right, cool. And we should have Eugene joining us a little bit later on down in the podcast. Cool. Well, since we do have a special guest this week, Citizen, just wanted to kind of like give you a chance, like introduce yourself and what you're all about.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, I'm just another dude who just really likes guns. I got my start in the long range world and started messing around with running gun and things like that nature. But probably how most people know me is from Twitter. I've got a decent. In the words of Control Pew, we are diet RC Cola internet celebrities, and so just a resident dude on gun Twitter, and I just kind of got my start just posting training logs and also just kind of fielding questions from new shooters, and kind of just set out with the goal to kind of just be the nicest guy you'll meet with a gun and get along with. The Bob Ross at 2A Twitter is kind of where I landed with that.
Nice.
Aww.
You're gonna have a Netflix documentary about you soon.
Nah, I don't think that's probably in the future, but just having fun with guns and not taking myself too seriously is kind of my entire shtick. Hey, what's going on, Malcolm?
Hey, Malcolm. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if
you
you ever
pretty much
start,
have to go into space to get a Netflix documentary these days. So
that's true. I mean, or you could start doing, like pastels and watercolors of, fluffy white blowback clouds or something.
Yeah, it's true. We could add some chromatic aberration to some of these stills.
Nice. Great. Well, cool. Well, yeah, the next segment we usually do here is what have you been shooting this week? So, anybody go to the range, get some new guns, ammo, anything like that?
In Illinois, actually, last week, visiting
sorry.
my mother-in-law. It's better than California. It's an upgrade from California, and I was able to shoot some really nice subcompact guns out there. Since I'm looking for a subcompact myself, so I shot the 320 subcompact, the SIG P320, and then also the 365 as well. And both of them are great. And I love the P320 FCU, or both of them have like the FCU that you can move around to different frames, and I think that's super cool. So I was in the range shooting there, and it's been a long time since I've shot with just irons, since I'm so used to my red dots. It was took a little bit for me to get used to the iron sights, but it was really fun. I was the only one there. It was kind of during work hours, and it was like lunch, and I was like, oh, I could eat food or I can go to the range. And the range was like 4 minutes driving away. So I decided to go to the range instead of eating.
Nice. I actually got to shoot the latest addition to SIG's Spectre lineup at Primary Arms Range Day. They just added a new compact version. Big fan of that 320 compact.
Yeah, it's super, super good. And I think I'm trying to remember. Did I shoot the three? I think I shot the 320 compact, subcompact, and then the 365 subcompact. They didn't have like the 365 XL, unfortunately.
oh, that's a very good one. I'm sad you missed out. Yeah,
I'm sad
well,
too.
the fun thing about the 320 and the 365 is you can actually swap out the grip modules on them because the registered part is a fire control unit, which is just a small metallic part inside the, well, just below the slide.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Cool. And you just met Mrs. AAPI Go, going back the out back door there. So she didn't want to say hi, but she seems to crop up every time we've done video sometimes. So there we go. Awesome. Well, how about you, Raph?
Oh, I haven't shot anything interesting lately, but I'm just trying to stockpile ammo at the moment. I managed to get another couple hundred rounds of 5.56, which is a really good score. If you don't use ammo seek, you should. But I've just been trying to build a stock so that I can afford to shoot.
What are you at now, if you don't mind me asking?
Just around 1,000 rounds of 223.
Nice.
I had like 1,000 rounds originally before the pandemic. Then I shot it all, and then the pandemic hit, and I felt really dumb.
It's like 1,000 rounds, like the reserves. Like you're not gonna shoot the 1,000, and then you're gonna have some more, and then
I feel like
leave
1,000
the
rounds is
reserves
like
for
a reasonable minimum to have, just because
Yeah.
you need a little bit to practice every once in a while, and you need, of course, the important stuff for just in case. But I'm in New York. I'm limited to 10-round mags, so it's not like I can shoot that much at a time anyway.
Cool. Yeah. How about you, Malcolm?
Nothing super out of the ordinary. It just finally got my AR sighted in. We have this really cool range in Virginia that goes out to 100 yards, but I only did the 50-yard range, so that was fun. And then put in some work with my everyday carry with my Shield Plus. So that's always a good one.
Nice. How do you like that Shield Plus?
It feels so good. I know Raph is always talking up that P365 and the XL, and I've shot that one, and I don't know, the Shield Plus just fits my hand way better, and the Plus with the improved trigger, it really does make a difference over like the original and the 2.0.
Yeah. That's what I used to carry, the original Shield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
It
found
comes
the
down to personal
Shield.
But I mean, I hate Glocks, so.
The Shield was a lot easier for me to align the sights than the 365. I felt like, so it was, yeah. I think all like, I think the top contenders for me would be the 365 or the 2.0, the MP Shield 2.0. So those are the two I'm looking to get. But California is crazy, so we'll see if I can get one of them.
Is the 365 on that approved roster y'all got?
No.
Maybe in a few more years. Actually, no, it won't be because of the capacity. Yeah.
Maybe never.
Yeah.
Yeah, has there ever been an addition to that roster? Or is it like locked in from, the way it was created in the first place?
I think so. You can get added to the roster, but it's very hard to get added to the roster. And like manufacturers don't want to. Oh, Scott, are you talking? Oh,
Scott, you're on mute.
you're on mute. But yeah, they were. It's hard to get on the roster,
Okay.
but it's technically possible. But I'm guessing manufacturers don't want to go through the trouble to get on the roster, which is totally understandable because it's one state.
Yeah, the 365 is one of the most popular guns in the country, so I can see them probably going through the effort for that, but it really sucks that you guys have that. I mean, we have the whole permitting system in Sullivan law, which is, I think, worse, but still, not having modern, more fun guns is really sucky.
Yeah, that is. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Yep.
You're all back.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was about to say that technically you can get the 365 or any gun that isn't on the roster, but you either have to be a cop, serviceman, moved here, transferred it, and if you're one of those people, it's illegal for you to do a PPT and transfer it to somebody, which is how I got my little toy here, which is the Walther PDP, actually. So had to basically go on website, totally not loaded there, but it's a fun little gun. And basically it's like you just have to do it through an FFL. They show up, the person who legally owns it, then they legally transfer it into your name. So that's fun, but it comes at a bit of a premium. So you're like looking to pay at least 25% more than you would in another state for it. And you have to get the magazines blocked in this case. So like this is a 15 rounder, sorry. But it's blocked at 10. It's got these little inserts in there. So fun time to show and tell about our crazy gun laws.
Those are pretty easy to remove, aren't they?
No comment.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Very. I have a couple Glock mags lying around because I think they just appeared like when I started buying guns.
Yeah, I may or may not have seen some of those like little blockers on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
Pro
rivets, so you
Mag
just
sells them.
Control them if you want.
Yeah. It's like it just has to be semi-permanently attached, I think, for it to be compliant there. So these are like they're permanent, but you could, through trickery, remove them at some point, possibly, hypothetically. Not in this state, though. I would never do that. Never, ever. So cool. All right. Well, yeah, that kind of covers that section. So before we get into news, had a couple questions for you, Citizen. So guess can jump into that. Let's see here. First one we had on the list, there was like, how did you get into firearms, and what was your first firearm, and why did you buy it?
Yeah, for sure. So I fought competitively for about 16 years, and just doing a bunch of different fighting types of things. And as I got older, it became a little bit harder to explain showing up at the office with a broken nose or black eyes and things of that nature. And so that was just kind of the natural progression, and just being able to start getting into something that's related in the same discipline and involves a lot of the very similar skills. And my first gun was the M&P Shield. That I think it was a 7+1 and 8+1 capacity, and that was cool. I liked it, but it really wasn't until I started getting like 1,000-yard matches and stuff like that, and like more long range shooting, that's really when it kind of the hobby got its hooks in. And like it's if any of you have ever like done any type of like martial arts or anything like that, like the skill set transfers over to shooting, and the same approach transfers over to shooting too. It's just really just comes down to discipline. So that was really my segue into this world, and really just kind of it's all downhill from there, quite frankly.
Did you have a friend introduce you to guns, or was it just all by yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I grew up in the country, out in Virginia, actually. So
nice.
One of y'all I heard is from Virginia, and
yeah, that's me.
Yeah, okay. I grew up about 30 minutes north of the Carolina border, and I grew up like shooting like pellet guns, BB guns, and little 22s. But nothing. It wasn't until I was an adult probably that I fired my first like center fire rifle or even pistol. Yeah, so I came to Texas and visited a good friend of mine. He took me out to a range here, and that was kind of the onus, or rather the jumping off point. And then probably about 6 to 8 months later, that's when I bought the Shield, and then got into long range not long after that, and then got into thermal hunting and stuff like that. So it all snowballed pretty quickly. Yeah.
Wait, are you
That's
originally
awesome,
from
man.
Southwest Virginia?
Southeast.
Ah, my wife's from Southwest Virginia. That's
so is my
a lot
wife.
of time in the southern area of Virginia. Really cool.
Yeah, my wife is from Southwest Virginia, though.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bristol,
Yep.
Kingsport, Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. I bet we've driven the same roads.
Yeah.
What roads they are.
Yeah, they are. It's a beautiful drive.
Very.
But yeah, it's kind of been cool. Like I even like throughout the pandemic and stuff, like I still shoot about 2,000 rounds a month between like my own YouTube channel, Guns America, and then just stuff that doesn't get filmed. So yeah, it's really just I think when I first got into it, I went 15 months where I shot at least once a day, and yeah, I was on the accelerated plan.
That's awesome, man. I think we did a flip flop because I grew up in Texas and now I'm living in Virginia. So like
Nice.
even with the freaking hat, we're like matching with. So, but that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I wanted to ask, by the way, like, do you prefer Citizenhush, Hush, or Citizen?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter, to be honest with you. When people like when I go out to like industry events and stuff like that, it's usually Citizen Hush, and then like once people start getting to know me, they start calling me Hush or my real name after like after they pass the sniff test.
Nice.
That was actually the onus for the superhero name Citizen Hush. I used to go by my real name, and someone tagged my old employer a bunch of times on Twitter trying to get me fired. And so Citizen Hush is a nod to that incident where it's just stop snitching, basically.
Snitches get stitches, right? So cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, what would you, we kind of covered this earlier, but like, what's your favorite firearm platform that you've been introduced to recently?
I'm pretty basic. Like I'm ARs are my go-to, and then striker fire pistols are pretty much my go-to. Like I'm pretty agnostic. Like I'm a fan of guns. There's only one gun I don't like, and that's the Ruger LCP. But like I'll have fun with anything from a Heritage Rough Rider all the way up to a $3,000 precision rifle. It doesn't make a difference to me.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah, anybody else want to ask any other questions on the list?
So like in the past few years, especially the Asian American community has basically been like not discovering firearms, but it's come into the mainstream. I mean, we all know about the rooftop Koreans in the 90s, but it's definitely become more of a thing in recent years with the rise of hate crimes. So like, what's your take on, how that dynamic works, and what, incited this specifically, and how you think that this is going to look going forward in terms of Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and guns?
I don't know. I don't really think about it in those terms. Like I'm a Pacific Islander. I'm from like the Spanish part of the Philippines. And like it's to me, I've never quite well, I'm mestizo also. So like I never really had a huge level of involvement in the Pacific Islander community, quite frankly, because Pacific Islanders were pretty damn racist towards me for being mestizo. And so I never really I've been back to the Philippines and stuff several times, but it's never been huge to me. And like I think trying to compartmentalize people into different demographics or whatever, it's not super relevant to me. Like for me, like the smallest unit of minority is an individual. And that's more important to me than any of that. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here, but like it's I'm in like the last week or so, we've seen a lot of statistics about like females being the majority of new gun purchases in the last year, things of that nature. And like, that's great. And like, irrespective of if it's females, LGBTQ people, Asians, Pacific Islanders, African Americans, I don't care. Like, I just want more people shooting.
Any subgroup rising to parity in gun ownership is a very good thing. I mean, like, I credit my Slavic heritage with, and upbringing with my love of clanky ARs, but that's, as far as I'd take that.
Yeah, like I'm not super involved with like the Pacific Islander community. I generally keep all communities at arm's length, regardless if it's like gun Twitter or a cultural community, just largely because communities come with a lot of unnecessary drama in my experience. So I generally just I deal with people on a case by case basis. I'm not too big on like being with groups of people.
Very cool.
Yeah, we could definitely relate to that. We've been there. And as you can see, we're kind of more of a rainbow coalition than one specific group anyway. So it all works out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then okay, so this one's kind of a softball, I guess, or a ground ball. But what's your best advice for a new gun owner?
I think just showing up. Like it's like if anyone's played sports, it doesn't even have to be like any type of martial arts or anything like that, but like having that experience with sports was really beneficial to me because like you learn humility really quickly, and in a lot of disciplines, particularly like in the tech world and stuff, like it's very easy to overstate your skill set, and the opportunity to prove your skill set usually doesn't get put on blast on a wide stage. And so like one thing that one life lesson I learned from starting fighting at a young age is like you show up and you be humble, and like you listen and you learn. You don't show up and start trying to show other people to do it. Like, and that would be my advice, that just kind of absorb as much as possible, as quick as possible, and then just keep showing up. Just keep showing up. Like I remember a lot of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms I used to go to, like new guys would show up every month, and like people would always place bets how long they'd last, and it's kind of gatekeeper-ish, and it's kind of like hazing almost, unfortunately. And I'm not a fan of gatekeeping either, but like that gatekeeping exists, but like if you keep showing up, people notice, and and with respect comes people willing to invest time into showing you things that will save you lots of money and training and ammo as well.
I feel like gatekeeping as a term has been somewhat corrupted, because to one level, to one degree, it's this is just kind of a harmful thing to keep people from getting into it. But on the other hand, it's this is making sure that people who are here are taking this seriously, and I think there's something of value there. Maybe gatekeeping isn't the right word, but yeah, and I think that aspect kind of applies to guns, especially the gun advocacy 2.0, the non-NRA crowd, where we try to identify ourselves and where I think most of us firmly reside. All right, anybody else have questions, or I have a couple more written out. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, what, I think you kind of partially answered this already, but what really got you into gun advocacy? Like, what gave you that drive to, go out and tell other people about, this?
Yeah. I don't know if advocacy is the word I'd use for myself, because like when I think of that, like I tend to think more like folks on the policy side, and there are way more people who do a much better job of articulating that than I do. For me, it was largely just like kind of it goes like gun ownership. People try and silo into like, you treat this as a sport, or you treat this as hunting, or this is a hobby that you like collecting things. When really it's this like manifold of different interests. And for me, I think the political side is a part of it. Like I said earlier, that the smallest unit of minority is the individual, and like in my mind, like liberty it's a responsibility. Like everyone pays lip service to freedom, but no one talks about the corresponding responsibility that comes with it. And the Second Amendment, and regardless of like how useful the Constitution is as a document, like it's more, to me, it's every free person's responsibility to act as a deterrent to tyranny. And that, I think that is probably what got me interested in trying to onboard new users or onboard new gun owners, and get folks exposed to this. And like I bring out tons of Californians all the time to go shooting for the first time, and like it's textbook stereotypes most of the time, and then like they walk them through how to handle an AR, or like I take them out and they hit steel at 500 yards for the first time, and it's the first time they've ever fired a rifle in their life, and like they turn around and look at me and they go, I think I low-key like guns, man. And like that's really what I'm about. That moment when like people, when you deconstruct something that's scary and complex, and you take it down, you break and you field strip an AR into its constituent functional parts, it becomes a lot less scary to folks like them. And that realization is kind of part of, on an individual to individual basis, is a big part of like what got me interested in just posting my silly antics on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, my own experience, people who I've gotten, good behind a trigger, they tend to get a lot more confident in their personal lives as well. And I think that's something that can't be understated. Like
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I have seen that too as well. Like when you,
it's kind of a
when you have the confidence to handle something dangerous equipment and know how to handle it and know how to troubleshoot it, like that does something to a person. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I feel like it really gets you out of that victim's mindset in a certain sense. I mean, like me, for example, I mean, I didn't touch a gun for the first time until I was like 35, and it's kind of well documented. My wife and I like experienced a little bit of a hate crime, and I just felt like completely powerless. But after I learned how to shoot and shoot like okay, decently, it just kind of like gave me a little bit more confidence. To your point, and couldn't have done it without like great range officers just like willing to show me a few things here and there. You have to have kind of like a little bit of a, fearless mindset. I got to show up to the range in the first place, and not look like a complete idiot. But it's great when you don't find, that people are all that bad. Like you kind of might have a preconceived notion about people being gatekeeping, for example. And my experience, it really hasn't been the case at all. Everyone's really open to sharing knowledge, and it's been great.
For better or worse, some of those older guys will talk your ear off and not let you shoot.
Yeah, that's true.
I think of it as part of the experience of going to the range, but I think everyone's kind of afraid of meeting one of the NRA stereotypes, and that probably holds a lot of people back.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, my local range owner is Barrett Brandon of meme fame himself, but really cool people there. But the other range across town is those people. So this next one's kind of fun for us because we love our Moms Demand Double Action around here.
Yeah, we do.
But what's your favorite anti-gun organization to troll?
I call that or something else, but I don't know what the.
Oh no, you can go as nasty as you want here. We don't judge.
Oh yeah, what is it? Mom's Demand Anal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really troll too much on the internet. I'm too busy, but and also like the jokes kind of get ran into the ground pretty easily.
It's true.
And like even that like Mom's Demand Anal thing, like that thing's like probably 6 months old at this point. And yeah, I don't do too much trolling. Like for me, like I'm just like pretty much the lines are drawn. We're not gonna like trolling's not gonna. It's not a good use of my time. Like I'd much rather spend the time and money to take someone who's never handled a firearm out shooting for the first time. I'd much rather do that, and that's a much larger investment than me just dunking on David Hogg on Twitter. And I would much rather spend. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like this comment about his legal education the other day. It was like, "Oh, the Constitution," something like that. That was entertaining. I forgot what he said, but he got a bunch of lawyers trolling him after that. He then made a comment about the 10th Amendment, I think, and
how many of us haven't dunked on David Hogg on Twitter in the last week? Then.
What were you saying, Raphael?
Oh yeah, just I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, probably you really love it to your Bob Ross of Twitter moniker. I think that's pretty cool. We definitely need positivity around here, and
yeah,
I'm definitely guilty of a tiny bit of trolling myself, but.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm not one to throw shade on anyone for doing that, and like I've done it before too. But like, I have to catch myself because like when you start doing it for like sport, like I'm just like, how much time am I wasting on this, man? Like, how much money could I have gone and made if I hadn't have chose to do that? And yeah, and like that's kind of like my personal like outlook also. Like I try to be a positive person and like be an asset to other people, and try and translate that in the online world, because there's a lot, as we all know, there's a lot of bad stuff out there.
For sure.
Very much so.
So you mentioned taking new gun owners to your range like pretty frequently. What's your take on them like saying, "Oh, this is fun, but I don't see it going any further than being recreational. And it's like something that should still, like, maybe guns should only be available at a range." Like, what's your take on those kind of people? Do you think they're a lost cause, or do you think they just need to go out and shoot even more?
No, I think that's a great question, and I do get that quite a bit. And like, to be honest with you, like I think there's two sides to that answer. Like one, I think there's just a fundamental difference in values. Like you either value what this represents and what that entails, or you don't. And kind of like what Scott was talking about, like with that victim mentality, like some people embrace like independence, and it's a scary, like freedom's scary, independence is scary, it's a big responsibility. And I don't blame people for not wanting to jump headfirst into that, but that's kind of what made the idea of America so radical to begin with. Like that's in our culture's DNA. And even like immigrants, like the folks who came here back in the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, my parents, and like it takes a very special person to uproot everything that they're used to in their home country and come to this country. And so it's kind of like this self-fulfilling virtuous cycle of like, these values attract a certain type of people that reinforce those values. And it doesn't always work out that way, and it doesn't seem to be going that direction right now. But like, I do think that there's still some validity to that. And if some people just shoot a gun and they're like, oh, this is a neat hobby, they should be illegal still. Like, I mean, they gave it a shot. That's all I can ask them for. And it's just not for them, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened to anybody I've ever shot with, but I think they're just too much fun.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. Well, yeah. Before we get into news, are there any events or announcements that you would like to make for our audience to be aware of, and where can people find you online?
Yeah, for sure. As far as events go, I just went through the one that was probably closest up on my radar, which is the Primary Arms Range Day that they just hosted a couple weeks ago. But I'll probably be going to SHOT Show if it happens, quite frankly. But everyone knows about that. I'm actually not really looking forward to SHOT Show. I don't like big conferences, but I'll go. But where you can find me, Citizen Hush on Twitter and Citizen Hush on YouTube. That's the primary channels. You can find me on other places like Odyssey and Instagram under the same handle as well.
Perfect. Great. Well, yeah, I guess moving on into news here. And speaking of events, I just wanted to kind of like let everyone know we have a couple that were kind of in the early stages of planning. We had a really cool one back in August on the 31st up at Monarch Defense here in San Jose. Had about 70 people out. In case this is the first time you're joining us on the YouTube channel, you can check out the trailer for that. But we're going to be doing another one that's a little bit more low-key, local, and in town coming up here around the November timeframe at Field Sports Park. It's going to be geared to more new shooters than anything like that. So stay tuned for details on that. And we're also going to be doing kind of a general safety class sometime in October with a bunch of really experts in the San Jose area. So look forward to more info on that. But let's see here. Moving on beyond news about ourselves and mountain roads and whatnot. One news story here. It looks like there are 3D printed guns found in Myanmar, not Miramar, the Air Force Base. Getting Top Gun referencey here.
Yeah, in Myanmar or Burma.
Going to be flying rubber dog shit out of Hong Kong. That's what's going on.
Yeah, that was the FGC-9.
Pattern is full, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so basically Myanmar has some very restrictive gun laws, and they recently underwent a military coup where the people who did not like this coup were powerless to stop it due to their lack of armaments. Well, a bunch of FGC-9s have been showing up in that country, and the FGC-9 is a popular 3D printed carbine. The FGC stands for Fuck Gun Control. It's a very capable gun, very reasonable for most uses, self-defense and or plinking. Yeah, and they've just been popping up, so it looks like the freedom is spreading, which I am absolutely thrilled about.
Can't stop the signal.
Can't stop the signal.
That's awesome. Yeah, didn't we talk about like a couple months ago, like they were building guns out of just like pipes and machinery and just kind of like really putting it
the
to...
FGC-9 is actually primarily designed by a guy from an undisclosed European country. He's definitely Danish. His accent is unmistakable. Jay Stark, who he's the source of many memes. He's radical pro-gun activist who is, in his own words, extremely peaceful. But he did a lot of the legwork behind designing this gun. It's entirely made at home. You can even rifle the barrel yourself with a 3D printed insert and something called electrochemical machining. Very, very cool piece of kit. And his goal behind designing it was to get around restrictive laws in countries that don't recognize freedom. And it looks like he's actually helping to spread freedom to some places that really, really need it right now. So thank you, Mr. Stark.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And,
I was speaking at the Guns and Bitcoin conference when Control Pew he announced the FGC9 release date at that conference. That was cool to be there for.
Very cool. Yeah, Control Pew does some great stuff.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was at the primary arms range day. Unfortunately we were talking, trying to get some time to hang out during it, but we were both working. So
Scott, we should get him on.
we should.
I have some questions. Namely, when can we get a 3D printed version of that? So somebody does Vuurwapen, which is a branch of Omaha Outdoors. They designed this really cool little frame that was supposed to be an 80%, but the ATF never approved it, which takes a Glock 43 slide but P365 mags. So you get a really, really compact gun with very easy to find parts and no metal milling required to make it from 80%. But they never actually got ATF approval. So I'm really hoping that somebody will CAD together a 3D printed version of that, because it seems pretty simple, because you can 3D print a 43 slide and you can also 3D print a 365 grip. But we'll see if that ever happens. But let's get him on so I can yell at him about it.
Good call. Yeah, I'm really wanting to get into the 3D printing. I just got a 3D printer, but obviously not going to print anything that would not be legal in the state of California. But in general, figurines. Looking forward to printing some of those Warhammer pieces and whatnot.
Yeah, I 3D printed a Warhammer the other day in 7.62.
Nice. Very cool. Well, cool. Speaking of moderation, I guess, it turns out our friend David Chipman / Lady Elaine / Simple Chip, his nomination was actually stalled by moderate Democrats of all people. So yay, Joe Manchin, and possibly Kristen Sinema and the other folks that are, kind of one step away from preventing filibuster reform and all of that. Yeah, what are your takes on that, everyone? I thought it was personally kind of cool that at least showing bipartisan support for blocking a terrible candidate, number one, and then number two, like maybe people are just starting to realize from their constituents that with the rise in new gun owners over the last couple of years, it's not just a stereotypical Republican thing anymore.
I think I wasn't very surprised, just because like he was nominated, and then like just things kept on popping up left and right, and I mean it's normally not good when your nomination is kind of stalled and not confirmed for such a long time. So I wasn't super surprised, but I am very happy.
I think Gataska's not giving himself enough credit here. So we actually talked to Steven a few weeks ago. Actually, that's how we learned about the platform we're recording on right now. He found some very practical recording methods. But he really did a lot to spread the message about the allegations against Chipman. And I think he broke the story about him losing his service weapon.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, but we really should all send Steven a donation and a thank you for his work on this, because he really did a good job at stopping an absolutely awful candidate.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like subscribe to the reload.com. I mean, it's a fantastic resource, pretty relatively priced. And you can help support his content because he's like one of the few journalists out there that's like dedicated to guns, that is coming from a historically mainstream media background. I mean, he was with the Washington Free Beacon for a number of years and a couple of other really well-known publications. So he's really putting a lot of like good journalism and rigor behind all of his reporting. So yeah, unofficial sponsorship plug since we don't have sponsors, but hey, subscribe to the Reload.
No, Steven's a fantastic guy, and
he is. Yeah,
I'm really grateful for the work he's doing.
Cool.
I think the
And he did
DNC
break that
realized
story,
that
by
they
the
need
way.
to not commit political suicide here because, with popularity tanking, like this is not a good time to take on a fight like gun control, which involves a whole lot of the country and some traditionally blue places, like say Vermont, which has some pretty cool laws.
Yeah, exactly. We need to get somebody on from Ohio too, because I mean that was like another state that kind of like went from blue to purplish / red. So, and
Ohio's just
Pennsylvania, too.
hardcore Midwestern. Don't try to understand it. They just are that way. Like half of my family lives there. It's an interesting place. Very, very flat. Actually,
Yeah.
topographically, the state of Ohio is flatter than an average pancake. If you scale it, yeah, the elevation changes are lower than an average pancake. So.
Yeah, my grandpa on my mom's side's originally from there, and he was like fresh off the boat from Ireland and then lived in Ohio, of all places, for, many years before migrating out west. And so, yeah, I've never been, though. I've heard it's a cool place, though.
I wouldn't say cool, but it's a place.
Yeah, I mean, like Cincinnati anyway, I guess. All right.
Cincinnati's just Cleveland without the glitter.
Nice. A little more grime on it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
all right. I don't know. Could be. Anyway, moving on before we defend our Ohio audience members any further. Looks like per the NSSF, that's the National Shooting Sports Foundation for you kids who don't know the acronym. Dealers actually reported that there are roughly 3.2 million people that purchased a gun for the very first time in the first half of 2021. Other stats on that, it looks like 90% of the retailers in that survey were basically reported an increase in African American men. There's also reported increases of around 87% for African American women. 80% of retailers reported an increase amongst Hispanic men and women, and 76% of retailers reported increased sales among Asian American men and women. So all around, good stats. Another kind of sign that gun ownership is changing from the stereotypes there. So good news all around there. Yeah, any thoughts? Anyone on that one?
That's a really unilateral spike. And I hope that's not just a spike. I hope that's just a raise that's going to stay that way. But I'd like to point out that these numbers don't count, for example, private party transfers, which are very common.
Sure, yeah.
In a lot of, especially in the South. If you want to buy your first gun, you talk to your neighbor, the one with the 80 guns in the attic, and those are just the ones in the attic, and you buy a starter pistol off of him. That's a lot of people in my family or my wife's family have done. And they're definitely Southerners, and that's how it works there. And then it also doesn't count people building their own, which is, as we know, huge. A lot of people are getting into 3D printing. A lot of tech people who wouldn't otherwise be into guns are just like, oh, this is kind of the most advanced use of 3D printing right now. Let's try it. And so I think that the 3.2 million number is definitely a little bit conservative, considering the number of dealers who also won't talk about their clientele, which is good of them. This is anonymous, but still. But that's really good. I wasn't expecting the numbers to be that high.
Yeah, pretty surprising. Well, I mean, I guess not surprising considering last year's numbers, but yeah, I mean, with everything going on, not too surprising at all. Actually, I was kind of curious, like, Hush, did you attend the gun makers match at all? They reported on that in the Reload and a couple of other places, but I mean, I guess it was just like kind of a cool event that happens every year where people do 3D printed or home assembled firearms.
No, I didn't attend that. But my friends here in Texas, Apostles Firearms Academy, this is in tandem with the Guns and Bitcoin conference that I spoke at in April. Like we had the first 3D printed gun competition there, actually. That you're referring to the one that Pincus organized, right?
Yeah.
It's in Pennsylvania.
We're not huge. We're not huge on him, but no, I wasn't there.
Interpersonal drama, I assume.
It was pretty public.
It's the Court
Yeah.
Commission, not necessarily the people.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
But
relate to that.
it was I mean, it's the more people getting involved with this technology, the better. Like I've printed two, a DD19.2 and a DD17.2, and then the Anderson Hellfire as well. And I've got a receiver that I need to reprint for the Hoffman Tactical. I actually like the Hoffman. That's probably my favorite printed AR design. But for me, I'm not a 3D printed expert or anything like that. Like I'm just a cheerleader on the side. I'm friends with the Gatalog guys, formerly Deterrence Dispense.
And
Like,
that's the great part. You don't have to be an expert. You can just do it.
yeah. Like Vin from Gatalog. Like he stayed at my house multiple times. And I'm probably closest to Vin, but like I could text Control Pew and just be like, yo, actually, I think we are trying to organize a hog hunt using thermals and 3D printed ARs.
Very cool. Yeah, I prefer the Firebolt myself. I think it's probably the most robustly designed 3D printed AR right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that U-bolt adds so much strength.
Yeah, anything that involves that many screws though makes me a little like, because I'm moving a lot when I'm shooting, like because I'm running like courses of fire and stuff, and like I'm just thinking of all the things I could potentially get snagged on. Now that could just be like my own internal FUD lore running, but because I've never the one that I did print. Do you guys know AG Cast? He's another 3D printed gun guy. So he came out and shot with me a couple weeks ago, and I believe he had the U-bolt. And we actually have footage where I go low ready, and then go to fire, and I rip the grip off of the lower receiver because the heat had warped what he had printed it at. And the designer of I think it's Spooky who designed the U-bolt, I believe. He commented, he was like, I'm gonna create a new part or a new grip for this design and name it the Hush Puppy.
I think I follow pretty much all the 3D printing gun people that matter on Twitter. I'm a big fan of that. But I think that's definitely the future, especially with what we're seeing in other countries. And then one more, if you will, minority report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a new Wall Street Journal study has found that, I think you mentioned this earlier, women are 47% of new gun buyers.
That's awesome.
And, I think that's incredibly cool.
I'm all for it.
It's too cold up here.
Understandable too. I mean, we had a good number of ladies show up to our event that we had on back in July as well. And anecdotally, I swear like it's 50% women every time I go to the range recently, of all races and denominations, which is pretty cool. I mean, last time I was there, I basically saw a woman with her elderly mother shooting an AR-15, and that was just like warmed my heart.
That's awesome.
I think a big part of this is a lot of people are realizing that, hey, the police don't really care about me, and it's kind of in my own hands. And so they're realizing that, that freedom that we have, that's pretty useful. But if you take a look at the numbers, it's like disproportionately minority. It's very, very good. And of course, in existing gun owners bought more firearms, as we do. But it's really good. Just like people who traditionally or stereotypically have not been into gun ownership are realizing that, this doesn't make a personal statement about me necessarily. This is just a practical thing to do. And I think, depoliticizing it more is one of the most important things we can do. It shouldn't be a statement about how hard you want a gun. It should be a statement that, I'm not stupid.
Well, and not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, I always go back to police response time statistics. I mean, pretty much most police offices report on this, but for example, in San Jose, biggest eye opener for me was that it takes them anywhere from 7 to 20 minutes to respond to a tier 1 request, which is life or death situation. Even worse in Oakland, abysmal in San Francisco, and in most major cities, it's somewhere around that time frame. Whereas, a well-trained shooter can, mitigate a situation of like less than 2 seconds with good concealed carry training. So it's just a math problem to me, honestly.
Yeah. The article actually mentioned something pretty interesting about how gun manufacturers are just moving away from like hyper genderizing guns and making it appealing to females by painting it pink, but rather they're actually making it more comfortable, just making better functioning, more effective firearms, and especially handguns. So like I can personally attest to that because I took my mom to go shooting a while ago, and I let her shoot my H&K, and it's just like it's too big, it's like it's heavy. And then I let her shoot my Shield Plus. I was like, oh, this fits perfectly. It's like it's way better. And so, yeah, I think that was a really interesting, like some interesting insight from that article.
Yeah, I was down south with my wife and shooting a Beretta M9A1, and she's got plenty of experience shooting, but it was a little bit funny. Like it fits well in my hand, but I have a little bit of Sasquatch grip here, but it just didn't work. It was kind of funny. She couldn't reach the hammer with her thumb, and I was like, oh, well, this is not ideal. And so things like the 365, the Hellcat, and okay, so every gun manufacturer is making a subcompact striker fired 9mm. I think Kimber just introduced one with a weird name. But that the rise in that is great. They're more concealable for women. They're easier to grip because the grips are smaller. The magazines are better designed, so they can fit more rounds in a smaller profile. And they're just people are beginning to think about this, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and breaking news, it looks like we have Eugene on. Hey, man, how's it going?
Pretty terrible, but I'm happy I'm here.
Welcome.
Right. Well, yeah, we kind of got through most of the news and everything like that, but we've got Citizen Hush here as our guest. So, if you had any questions for him or anything like that, what have you been shooting lately, Eugene?
Actually, so the one thing I did want to talk about, I wanted to open the doors to the Holy Church of 10mm.
Oh, yes. The bear round.
Recently bought a B&T APC 10. Got it all kitted out. I have a ACR tailhook adapter for the tailhook brace on it. Have Chris Vector mag extensions for the Glock 20 mags, and have a Trichicon MRO with the green dot on it. The only thing I'm missing now is a can, which I am in the process of sourcing a Dead Air Wolfman.
And God bless you for living in Pennsylvania where such things are possible.
I should do that. It's like an hour drive.
Yeah, you should. God, it was so demoralizing, but also awesome. Like visiting Nevada. Like I just went last week because my kids' class got canceled because one kid got COVID, so they sent everybody home. And so I just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna go visit the grandparents. And so went to Reno Guns and Range again, and yeah, they just have like cans on display, 100-round mags in a store, and it's just like insane compared to California gun shops where it's just like a very sad place full of 20-year-old guns for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, my local gun range has that too because they're an SOT7. They can have whatever they want. They only let you shoot subs out of the full autos though, which is really sad. But I actually exploded their Chris Vector, which is a fun little story.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention when I was there, I actually did get to shoot a full auto AK, so that was fun.
It's good, isn't it?
It was, but like
really
it's
good,
so
it?
weird. I mean, I felt like I had like Parkinson's disease or something with the amount of like shaking that was going on and like pushing me back. So that was fun.
It's a pretty big round to shoot full auto.
Yep. It was all gone in like 60 seconds, but it was worth it.
Yeah, well, get it now before 7.62 goes way up. Thanks.
Yeah, I know. I'm like single-handedly responsible for the Russian ammo shortage at this point. So,
Yeah,
okay.
Not single-handedly.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Biden has a lot to do with that.
Well, no, I was talking about me, but.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, the Primary Arms Range Day, they had a full auto CMMG Mutant the CMMG guys brought out. That was fun.
The Mute
Yeah, the
is
Mute's
definitely
a
one of
great
those
gun.
guns. It's a very interesting concept, and it is executed very well, considering it's not that common. Most of the time you expect gun companies that are trying something new or unique to kind of fuck it up at least once or twice.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah. I don't have a mutant, but primarily what I shoot hogs with here in Texas is a 7.62 by 39 AR. I've got a couple of them, and I threw 2 thermals on them too. And it's a great round. I'm a lot of what you hear about 7.62 by 39 and an AR and the problems you have in it it's pretty outdated information. Like they're pretty damn reliable at this point.
There's not a huge difference from an AR-10. It's a very similar size of round. It's not, not a crazy difference. And if an AR-10 can be reliable, like,
well, the problem is the curvature of the 7.62 by 39 round. There's a taper that makes feeding within the AR feed ramps difficult, as well as magazine compatibility. So the last couple of years, Duramag released the 7.62 by 39 AR compatible magazine that actually that's the most common complaint about doing one of those builds, the failures to feed. That magazine generally fixes it for the most part. I've got probably 5,000 rounds through all of mine and haven't had a failure yet. You do see accelerated extractor wear though, just because of the steel casing wearing it out. But that's a disposable part.
A cheap part. Whatever will I do?
Yeah.
No, I'm building my wife an AK for Christmas, and doing that and making it California compliant or New York compliant, same difference really. It's just a sad process. It feels very feels cruel.
It feels like
Nice.
bubbing a milsurp almost.
It feels like shooting a puppy.
Oh damn! Didn't know you were listening with the ATF.
Actually, my dog's mother was shot by a DEA agent.
Oh boy!
He was just
Ooh.
the neighbor. He was pissed at her, but he was
The neighbor
untouchable,
was
so.
a DEA agent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
I can see that.
She was roaming. He didn't like it,
Especially in
and,
Virginia, I guess, right?
Yeah, he was sitting on their property, and he was like, "Well, fuck you," and shot her.
On
Jeez.
to slightly happier news. I'm happy you brought it up, but not the dog thing, the 7.62 for hog thing.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
My friend and I are going on a into West Virginia,
Cool.
and we're bringing a couple guys with us. We've all got like a different assortment of calibers. My out of this trip is to take down a hog with my K31, either by shooting it or spearing it with a bayonet.
I have speared hogs. I do some during the winter months. The state of Texas has me getting rid of some hogs on some of their properties, and I help out a couple small ranches around here too. But yeah, it's fun. They're interesting animals, that's for sure.
Yeah, pigs, like domesticated pigs, are already like crazy smart and will kill you. Like they'll devour a human body, bones and all, in like under a day. Don't fuck with pigs. But I can't imagine hogs. Like I've had to tussle with like a boar before, but nothing wild. And I
Yeah,
can
same
imagine
vein.
they're scary.
Don't mess with pigs and don't mess with pig farmers.
Eugene,
I don't know,
is
all
this
people
gonna be
I
your
know who
first
raise
hog
pigs are
hunt?
nice.
Yes.
Are you guys using thermal or flashlights?
I know that 2 people, one guy's using a 300 black and the other guy's using a 7.62 by 39. They're using thermals.
Got it.
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to get into hunting, but it's like, if you think getting into guns is intimidating, it seems like being someone who just like wants to get into hunting by yourself without a group of friends and just, I don't know.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for somebody who like actually wanted to like get into it? You have friends who are vegans because you live in Silicon Valley.
I generally did anyone else here hunt regularly?
Not regularly.
Okay.
Get into it. I have my license in California, and I want to go quail hunting
Okay.
this fall.
They're tough to shoot.
Just because I love quails. I love
Especially their
shooting
eggs.
quails.
They're so delicious in hot pot, you know?
Yeah, and
Yeah, I like quail too. Yeah, I mean, you could always hire a guide, show you the. I mean, it's not rocket science. Like, there's some nuance to it for sure, and there's a lot of. Oh, that's obvious, but there's no way I would have thought of that. There's a lot of that. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to do it by yourself. You could. That's how I did it, and I learned many expensive mistakes along that way. Same with like long range shooting. Like I could have saved a lot of money getting to 1,000 yards if I just hired someone for an hour to just sit me down and talk me through it. But yeah, you could, depending on your location, like and also if you're willing to travel, you can always hire a guide. Yeah, and one of the things, a lot of misconceptions people have about hunting is like they think, oh, you could just go into the woods and you kill something and bring it back. Nah, dog. Striking out's part of the game. Like I would say even you could do everything right and you still got 50-50 odds. But yeah, and it also depends on the type of hunting. So like me, I do mostly predator hunting, so like coyotes, bobcats, and hogs. I wouldn't consider predators, but I do that. And that one of my buddies, Braxton McCoy, he does more of what what people would traditionally consider hunting, like going out tracking an animal and stuff like that. Whereas like what I'm doing is predator hunting, which is more just like removal bad things for ecosystems and livestock.
Well, I mean, up here it's pretty much entirely deer. We don't have anything else, but boy, how many deer do we have? So pretty much like if you're hunting deer, the advice here is you buy a bolt action 30-06, you get a warm coat, really warm coat, a thermos, and you get a tree stand, and then you sit there until a deer walks by, and then you shoot it. That's pretty. It takes about 2 hours. A deer will walk by, and it's dead. That's it.
So speaking of deer, the city of Philadelphia, which is where I live, has a very interesting program in which they hire specialized hunters within the city with specifically made for them subsonic suppressed bolt actions to remove deer that have wandered into the city at night to reduce the amount of traffic accidents on more major roadways. And it's like watching a scene from a movie, because apparently what they do is they will shoot the deer, and as soon as the deer goes down, a group comes in, grabs the deer carcass, and then prepares it, processed and cut up. And I don't know.
That kind
Oh,
of sounds like Tommy Boy.
But this is the career that I do.
Hey, I mean, props to them for at least processing it instead of just trashing it or something.
I mean, processing animals is pretty easy. Like if you've grown up on a farm, you've killed an animal and you've butchered the animal before. And deer are actually like really easy. They're basically self-disassembling because they don't have joints on their front legs. So it's pretty much you just hang them up and they just fall apart. It's great.
So does it take more or less time than the Red Dead Revolver 2 cutscenes to skin an animal? Because those take really forever. They literally take like 10 minutes. Like every time you skin an animal in that game, 10 minutes of watching John Marston.
So a couple animals. So if you have a chicken and you scald it first, you don't skin it. Turkey, same thing. If you're doing rabbits take about 3.5 seconds to skin completely. You can do it by hand with no knife. You break their leg and you just rip it off. Something larger, skinned a pig. That was like, it was a smaller pig, but it was pretty easy. Took like 5 minutes. I've done a sheep in 4.5 minutes, but depends on the age of the sheep. So if it's a lamb, it just comes right off. If it's like a year old, it takes a lot of work to scrape the connectors away from the skin. That's just like you can't rip it off, or the back comes apart basically.
Wait, you're quartering these animals, or you're just
skinning.
skinning them? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
you hang them up and you take the skin off basically.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah,
deer,
I thought
so-
you were saying you were
yeah.
quartering them in like 30
No.
seconds. I was like, oh.
And then deer's skin is
Right.
actually stuck on pretty tight. Like it's tight on them. If you look at a deer run, you can see how closely the skin is connected. But deer are gutted in the field because they're really hard to carry around with all the guts in. So the skinning is a little bit easier because you have a head start. But it can affect the meat if you hit the guts when you're gutting them. So generally sheep are gutted after skinning instead of before. So like it really depends on the context, but skinning does take a little while unless it's a really small animal and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, I do a lot of squirrel and rabbit hunting in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Those come apart pretty easy.
Yeah, but I mean I really like working with livestock, in both senses, just because they, like goats and sheep, they both don't have joints in the front because they have like a floating joint. Instead of like a predator, which will actually have a shoulder bone, and that's really hard to work around. But sheep in particular, just like they butcher themselves. It's wonderful.
Does it put the
Hush.
lotion on its skin?
Actually, sheep produce this thing called lanolin, which is used in a lot of human lotions. So it
Ah.
puts the lotion on its skin by itself.
And then does it put it in the fucking basket?
You get the hose. You get the hose.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I still have a sheepskin around somewhere from one of the ones I did a while ago.
Nice.
I don't know where it went. My dog probably ate it.
Probably. Cool. Well, yeah, I know we're getting around the hour and a half mark here, so we could either wrap up, or I know that, Hush, you have the Strike Industries P320 as your weird gun of the week. Where can we find that write-up that you were talking about?
Yeah, it's over at Guns America. I don't do reviews on my YouTube channel anymore. I do them over at Guns America. But the Strike Industries P320 MC modular chassis is probably the only innovative thing that I saw at Primary Arms Range Day. Effectively, the P320 fire control unit you guys were talking about earlier, it's a completely modular chassis built off of that fire control unit. You see a lot of like the Roni MCK. It's a chassis that you can slip a Glock into. I've owned a couple of those. They feel super flimsy and they kind of feel like a toy. This felt like a dedicated PCC. And so it was really cool to see. It hasn't been released yet. It should be out by end of the year, but basically it allows you to just kind of go through like an inventory. You bring your own fire control unit and you select between 15 to 20 different modular components down to like just like the specific grip angle you want, what type of charging handle you want, what style of folding brace you want, or if you want to SBR it. And so you can really trick this thing out exponentially based on how modular it is. And that was the coolest thing that I saw there. Yeah, it was. I think there's no MSRP on it yet, but it ran great. It's still in development. I had a failure to feed or a stovepipe out of it, but I mean, to their credit, like it's still under development and it's still going through QC review, so that's to be expected. And Strike Industries, like big props to them for taking risks, because like I'm sick and tired of the gun industry like being like forward slide serrations and pistol red dot optics ready cuts, calling that innovation. I'm like, dog, no. Like I'm a big, I may not shoot the guns that are made by them, particularly from like Kel-Tec, but like I'm a big fan of firearms companies like taking risks and developing new platforms. And
P50, right?
Yeah, you don't see a ton of that. What was that?
The P50 by Kel-Tec, that new.
Yeah. I'm not huge on Kel-Tec, not because like I have something against them. Just their stuff is always just a pain in the ass to take down and reassemble.
Yeah, I've borrowed a P3AT from my brother-in-law before, and it's his daily carry, and he loves it, but it's weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and even just like a 380 pistol, it's like, okay, that's what you wanted to do, Kel-Tec.
Yeah, it's cool. I like Shrike Industries a lot. They're more known as an accessories manufacturer, and I guess this would still fall under that because they're not making a serialized component. You're bringing that yourself, but um, that was really cool. They also had some really cool cable management tabs that I hadn't seen before that like enabled you to manage if you've got like let's say like an O light and like a PEC 15 on your setup. They had some really neat cable management things that I didn't do a write up on, but I have weapon lights on most of my ARs, and changing the batteries with that thing attached with the wire attached gets a little cumbersome, and uh, that was pretty cool to see. It was pretty cool to see.
So like these guys have clearly built a PC before as well as some guns.
Yeah, exactly,
Nice.
exactly. Yeah, and that's how they actually introduced it to me. Like, oh, and you're an engineer. We have these cable management things. I was like, dude, let me see the gun. Let me see the gun.
Nice.
Yeah, looking at their website, they do look like they're nerds. I do like that.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're really cool. Actually, I think it was one of their lead engineers. I think he was Filipino. I'm not sure. He looked like my uncle.
Always a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's all we had on the agenda for today here. Unless, like, Eugene, Bobby, Malcolm, you have any questions for anything?
All right, boys, let's grill them.
All right, cool.
I guess.
Well,
I did have just kind of like a general question for everyone here, just going to get their opinions on how the gun industry is going, in their opinion, anyways. I just want to hear from everyone. What do you guys think should kind of be the next train that most companies go on? With handguns within the past few years, it was modular fire control systems that you could throw into different chassis and have fun with that. Is there something similar you'd like to see with maybe other guns, or what is it that you would want to see become more normalized in terms of like firearms engineering and technology? And if you guys have nothing, that's good too, because that is a very difficult question to answer right off the bat. But just something for everyone to kind of think about.
Well, I mean, Bobby and me cry because regardless, none of it will get approved for California's asinine roster because of no microstamping. So I guess, yeah, microstamping, that would be a great innovation for all firearms manufacturers, just so that we can actually get some new guns here in California.
I'd like
because
to see...
microstamping does not exist, which is why they have it as a requirement.
I'd like to see more more attention paid to I'd say compact riflery, because if you've seen some of the stuff that Anderson Arms has been doing, they've been making some non-skeletonized, very lightweight rifles, especially in their bolt actions, and I think that's a really nice trend because, again, towards that accessibility, towards women and just smaller people. I think that's a really important thing, making more ergonomic, and that includes weight rifles. Because I don't like looking around a heavy rifle all day, especially when I'm out doing something interesting. And I think some more optimization towards that would be really cool to see, especially with a lot of the new materials science we've been seeing. So 3D printing is just the tip of the iceberg. It's getting smaller and lighter, and it's really cool to see. And I'd like that trend to accelerate.
Do you lug around heavy rifles with you a lot?
Not as often as I'd like, but yes, my AR weighs entirely too much.
Yeah, my main AR is an LWRC with the spiral barrel. That, with the suppressor and a EOTech and magnifier, adds a considerable heft. But I like the quality. I like the setup.
It's a trade-off. It's good, but it would be nice if it was 2 pounds lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we've kind of we've gotten as far as we can with a lot of the cartridges that we're using nowadays in terms of manufacturing and we've gotten 9mm pistols about as small as they can get, and still be practical to hold and shoot. But I'd like to see some of that creative thinking applied to rifles, because the AR platform or the AR receiver pairing hasn't changed in a while. Maybe a new platform. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Scott, didn't you want us to show off some guns?
Oh, yeah, feel free. I mean, I guess, hey, it's our first video time, so last segment, show and tell. Does anyone want to share anything?
I mean, I just have the one that I leave next to my bed. This is actually my first rifle. It's getting kind of up there by now, but it's just a really, really, really basic New York compliant Bushmaster AR that I've kitted out on the internals a little bit, replaced it with a full auto bolt. It's a little bit lighter, so it makes it cycle a bit faster, or so I'm told. And then a Geisley trigger and just a Sig Sauer Romeo, and that's the gun the cops don't complain about up here.
I'm in the process of unpacking my office, so I've got about 80 guns just laying around right now. I've got this Shadow Systems MR920 Elite, I believe. I'm working on a review of this for Guns America. They're a small boutique shop in Plano, Texas, and I like it better than my Glocks. I'm not big on like brand tribalism. Like I like Glocks, I like MMPs, and I like CZs. Sorry, and but that is what I think the Glock should be making. Is like it's pretty solid.
So it's a Glock, but they actually paid attention to ergonomics.
Yeah, I think it actually only it's compatible with Gen 4 components, but I believe it actually only shares 3 parts with the Glock at this point. Even the grip angle is a 1911 style grip angle.
Well, everything is now.
Well, you can the Glock I think is a 30 degree grip angle. And if they're building this off of, I believe they're building this off of Glock frame mold, and yeah, it's a solid gun.
Yeah, because like I know that all of the big names in 80% these days, so that would be Polymer 80 and the I think it's 80% Arms GST9. They all use the 1911 grip angle, and I think everyone actually everyone that I've talked to seems to prefer it.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more vertical and fits in puts the recoil more firmly against the center of that wrist hand joint, so like right here instead of up here more where a Glock seems to put it.
Yeah. I think the Glock grip angle though lends itself better to that more aggressive thumbs forward grip that I use, and you see a lot of competitive shooters use too. If you try and do that on a CZ, you'll accentuate the slide stop, and you'll get a inadvertent slide lock back. But yeah, I would say that 1911 style grip angle is definitely more ergonomic for most people. But I mean, I like them both. I just have to change it up.
I'm right there with you in terms of the 1911 grip angle being really nice. So you had mentioned before, like you can't really do that the thumb forward kind of grip, especially when using like a CZ, which is what I have the most trigger time with. A CZ P07 and a CZ 75.
The Rimy?
Yes.
I love that gun.
So my range, the range that I work at, we actually just got that same Shadow Systems as part of our selection. And I think we've had it for about 2 weeks now, and we've been I think we've put down a total of 5,000 or 6,000 rounds through it. I gotta say, while Glocks are nice, I have difficulty kind of adjusting to that grip angle and also the grip width. But with the Shadow Systems, it seems a lot more intuitive for me to just kind of like go in and grip on.
Yep.
While with the Glock, I really have to think, all right, I need to kind of angle my hand a bit off to the side in order to get like a stable enough grip. I still don't know if I would buy it myself. The main reason being is I can't justify the cost versus the practicality.
Mhm.
You know, the biggest draws about Glocks is they're decently low price, but with something like a shadow system, I could definitely justify that as a competition kind of pistol.
Yeah, I've got about 3 or 4 of these now, and like I don't think it's geared towards like your typical Glock buyer either. So like it's geared more towards like folks who are customizing their Glocks, and so like they're adding front serrations if they have a pre-Gen 5 or an early Gen 5 because they didn't have front side serrations in the first iteration of Gen 5, or like doing millings for a pistol red dot. Also like stippling, things of that nature, trigger jobs, the trigger undercut. I have massive Glock knuckle from refusing to do a trigger undercut. And so I think the shadow system's geared more towards folks who are buying a Glock with the intention of making those functional changes, and some of the cosmetic ones also, because you end up to end up having all that work done, you end up dropping about $1,200 to $1,400 depending on where you're getting it done. Whereas with the shadow systems, you can just pretty much get it done for you already for $1,000. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying though. I don't think it's trying to compete with Glock in the entry-level pistol tier. I think it's more just like, hey, you're going to do this anyway, so we're going to offer it off of the shelf.
Though I do think if they ever offer a Glock 45 model, not 45 CP, model 45.
Yep.
If they ever offer that, I think I would immediately jump on it.
They do actually. Wait. Actually, never mind. They've got the inverse. So it's the MR 920 Elite or 920L. I have that one downstairs. It's not the same. So the Glock 45 is the 17 frame 19 slide. This is a 19 frame with a 17 slide. Yeah, so it's the inverse.
Yeah, so the 35, but in 9mm essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they make solid guns. That's always I just did a posted a review on Guns America from Primary Arms Range Day 2 of a $4,000 Triarch 2011, and like whenever you review a gun that costs more than $1,000 on Guns America, you're going to get comments of people like, oh, I could buy a Ruger 1911 and keep my $3,000. Like, yes, but your Ruger 1911 is a very different gun from this gun. Like,
this is not marketed at you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the just as good crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I don't know. You with the Guns America crowd, you kind of have to get ahead of that. Like, yeah, if you think $4,000 handguns are silly, probably shouldn't read this article.
Atlas Athena that I just sold because I didn't shoot it enough. And it was just sitting, and I was like, oh, what would I use this for? Competition? I don't have time for competition. So I just sold all my super collecty ones, and now I'm just left with my 2 Glocks for handguns and my 2 ARs. So
yeah,
keeping it slim.
That's good.
Yeah, the Triarch Tri 11. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's unreleased. It's the updated version on the Tri 11. It's I think the working title is the Bluebird, but yeah, it's in that family.
Looks very cool. The Tri 11 looks very cool.
Yeah, the Tri 11's a great one. Triarch's one of those like Gucci Glock shops that are known for like $2,000 Glocks, where you have to send their gun and then pay $2,000 to have the work done. But yeah, their 2011s are great. The Bluebird, like, it's got a reinforced guide rod. Like, I think there's a picture of me in there, like, shocked at how little recoil there was on that. And it comes with a bull barrel also, which helps mitigate it too.
So heavy barrel and I assume a strong recoil spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do like a really strong recoil spring. It makes it nasty to actually rack if you have bad grip, but it really does make a difference when you're actually shooting it. Just reacquiring target is just so much easier with 20 pounds instead of standard what is it on a Glock, 15, 18?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, getting the stink eye from my family, so I should probably get going here. But I'll bring my show and tell one here. It's got my Walther PPK here, which is actually technically legal in California, although it is off roster because it was made in 1970, so I got it as a CNR. Curios and Relics license. So feel free to check that out on our website. We've got a guide on how to do that. Gives you a lot of cool advantages, including being able to have really old firearms shipped to your door. But I was pretty happy with this because it's like actually really good shape. And I can do, things like shoot the screen and pretend to be James Bond. So there we go.
That just made me cringe. Just because muzzle control, even over video. Wow. That instinct is really deep. All right. So I think this has been a resounding success. Although we usually do these with some with a live peanut gallery, but this platform.
Yeah, we have to figure out how to do that. Well, I think we could probably simulcast it somehow on Discord, but it might suck up bandwidth. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out because normally when we do it, we do it over Discord. But the video and audio quality kind of sucks, so we decided to try it out Riverside because it actually works out better when you do video. But lose out on the audio component.
I bet we can live stream to like YouTube or.
Yeah, I've used Riverside before. I've been really happy with them. Are we still recording?
Yeah, we are.
I think we're probably gonna chop this out and do an outro in like 2 minutes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, we generally have to cut a bit out in case somebody says an oopsie.
Yep.
All right.
Cool.
Scott, you want to outro us?
Let's do it. All right. Well, thanks everyone for stopping by this week. Be sure to check us out on YouTube now, since this is the video version. And if you're still listening to the audio version, remember to give us a glowing 5-star review on iTunes, especially if you liked what you heard here. But if you didn't, just forget that I said that. And we'll move on and see you in the next couple of weeks. Thanks to Citizenhush for showing up today. Any parting thoughts for the audience?
No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Just get out there, have fun, y'all.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone. This has been the AAPI Go Cast for September 16th, 2021, and we'll see you next time. Peace.